Hi, and welcome to At-Home Art Lessons with the Art Groupies, where we develop great art habits. We're going to be working with this guy, Stretch. Stretch is the type of art groupie that loves to play and experiment and to take risks, do things that he's never done before, explore. We're going to be exploring with this guy, Eric Carle. Eric Carle is an American designer and illustrator and writer of children's books. We're going to be inspired by his book called Brown Bear, What Do You See? And Eric Carle is known for his collage books made from paper that he created by exploring and playing. So we're going to explore with a brown bear, or as we would know it a little bit better, as a grizzly bear. They say that the grizzly bear came from Asia over 800,000 years ago. The grizzly bear. So, we're going to be creating some textured paper for our collage, and we're going to do it just like Eric Carle. We're going to play. The first thing we're going to be playing with is browns, golds, blacks, and whites. Different neutrals of tempera paint. I'm just applying it with my craft sponge, and I'm going to use a variety of colors because you want to create that variety of texture and color to give a little bit more texture and fun to our bear. So after I've applied with the sponge, I'm going to just use a regular plastic fork. I'm going to dip it in some black tempera paint, and I'm going to scrape and create a texture on that paint to make it look and appear more like fur, like our grizzly bear. So if you ever have paint left over, it's fun to play and create some textured paper to use at a later time instead of wasting that paint, and have it set aside for another day. So this is our textured painted paper for our bear. Now I'm going to, on this side, apply some green tempera paint, a nice emerald green. I'm going to use a nice lime green, and then a medium green, maybe some blues in here. I'm just again applying it with a simple craft sponge. I'm now going to go over that with what is a dish rag tied on with a hairband on the back of that fork. And I'm going to simply sponge that over top, or stamp over top of those colors. And it really makes a very beautiful technique or texture that kind of gives that representation of the veins in a leaf. So it makes that foliage a little bit more realistic. Mix in some of those blues with that green to give a nice variety. So there we go. I have to set this aside to let it dry. It's much easier to draw and cut out on dry paper. So I'm going to set that aside. And I'm now going to show you some shapes that I use to create my brown bear. So some very simple geometric and some organic shapes. So for my bear's body, since he's the focal point of my picture, I used a black Sharpie and made a large oval. For the head, I did 2 circles one for the head and a smaller circle for the snout of my brown bear. I did 2 more circles for the ears of my bear and a skinny oval for his tail. I made almost like a rectangle shape with a dip in there for his front leg, and the same thing but a little bit longer for his back leg. Now for the leaves, you can do 2 things. You can create your own organic shape, or you can create a template. I like to use natural, real leaves for my template, and I would just lay them out onto my green and use a black Sharpie or a dark pen so I can trace around it so we can see it. And you want to fill in and create lots of leaves and foliage for your collage. So I'm going to use my scissors to cut out my shapes. Remember, thumb up top, and you want to always point those scissors away from you. And you want to very carefully go right on top of that line and cut out your shapes for your grizzly bear and also for your leaves. After you have all of your shapes cut out, you can then start putting together your collage. Now, I just use a yellow background for my collage because I think my painted paper is busy enough with lots of texture that I don't need a paper that's too busy with a landscape or anything like that. Because again, the bear is the focal point. So I have these leaves. I'm going to set them aside for right now. They're just going to put like a nice border around my edges. I cut out my shapes for my bear. And I don't want to just go ahead and start gluing. I really want to lay things out so I know I have enough room and that it looks right. So I'm going to wait to glue down my pieces. So I'm just going to lay out my shapes. Maybe I can move this up a little bit. Put on some ears. I think I'm going to use a boogly woogly eye instead of drawing one on. Can also use that black Sharpie to add some details like my bear's nose and his mouth. They also have some giant claws. So we can go over the painted paper to put some detail in. Then I can take my leaves that I cut out and glue them down and around the piece to make a nice background. Have them overlap maybe a little bit. And you don't have to go all the way around. Your piece can be whatever you want. So there's my brown bear, and we were inspired by Eric Carle and his brown bear, what do you see? You probably know Eric's most famous book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. So Eric Carle from Syracuse, New York, and the form of art is a collage, and we used lots of texture, and we used a fork with a dish rag and a hair tie tied onto the end to create our textured painted paper. So I hope you enjoyed our brown bear, what do you see?